Welcome to the fourth edition of the AND Report. This week, January 17th to 23rd, 2006, was a busy week in the world of AI, robotics, politics, and economics. The focus of these weekly updates is to look at AI and robotics primarily and how they pertain to the nature of work today and over the next few years. This week, we saw the rapid acceleration of AI as it's transitioning from a conversational tool into an agentic force capable of physical work and complex reasoning. This shift is characterized by massive capital investment, which we looked at last week, and a move towards humanoid robots in the industry, and the first major wave of national level AI regulation, primarily in Europe and the Far East. The World Economic Forum took place in Davos with many of the more interesting sessions run by BlackRock's Larry Fink. You should check out their YouTube channel to see some of the interviews. One of the ones I found interesting was Demis Hassabis from Google and Dario Amodei from Anthropic debated AGI, their view on when it's coming. And they also agreed, they disagreed on AGI when it's coming. Dario was suggesting this year or next year, whereas Demis was thinking more 3 to 5 years. But they did agree that the pace of development should slow down in order to, quote, get it right. So I think of Demis and Dario as kind of the moderate voices in the rush to AGI in comparison to some of the other hyperscalers. So now let's get into some of the top 10 stories that I came up with this week. The first is the rise of agentic AI in the enterprise. A European consulting business, eAnd, and IBM launched agentic AI for corporate governance, while Salesforce MuleSoft introduced agent scanners to manage autonomous AI agents across platforms. So the impact of this now will see the shift from work from humans using AI tools to humans managing AI agents that execute multi-step tasks independently, such as compliance auditing and software development. Other stories in the world of agentic AI, we have that broadly speaking, AI is reshaping how people work, not if people work. Or put another way, AI is taking over parts of people's jobs. 49% of jobs can now use AI in at least a quarter of the task involved, up from 36% in early 2025, Anthropic found. AI adoption outpaces workplace training. A report in the Times of India reported that while AI integration at work accelerates, many employees feel unprepared for changing roles due to insufficient training. So one of my goals with this AND report, as well as the weekly Zoom sessions, is to help people in professional jobs get ready, not just for what's happening today in AI, but also as we see the continued rollout of AI into the workplace. A survey in Reuters talked about concerns that younger workers are more worried than older generations about job impacts from AI automation. And I know from some of the work I do with US universities here is that many of the graduates from computer science programs aren't getting jobs. And there's a fear that entry-level jobs are disappearing because it's the easiest to automate with AI. And over time, that'll move up the organizational chart and more jobs will be augmented and possibly replaced with AI. The second top story was about humanoid robots entering the workforce. A Japanese robotics company called UB Tech signed a deal to supply Walker S2 humanoid robots to Airbus and Texas Instruments, aiming for 10,000 robots. Tesla announced it will begin selling its own humanoid robots by late 2027. Elon late last week, expressed his frustration with not getting it done sooner, but is now saying that by the end of 2027 he hopes to have 1 million robots, the Optimus robot. So the impact here with robotics will be probably next year will be the year of the robot, humanoid robot. So industrial and logistics roles will see the first widespread pilot programs for general purpose humanoids, moving beyond stationary automation on mobile human shape assistants. So not so much this year, but you will see it probably more next year. This is the first time in the AND report that we're looking at robotics. So I thought I would give you a look at some of the more interesting stories and some of the companies that are developing robotics. One that I like in particular is a company called 1X, and they're right now developing, they have a robot called Neo, and he's developing, the company I should say is developing, it's very easy to personalize robots now. But Neo, based on looking at videos and AI on board the robot without any input from humans, is developing what they call world models. So robots with onboard AI, which you could think of as edge AI, are observing and learning. And if you go to the 1X robots website, you get to see samples of how this works. And it's early development, but in the future, this will be the model where you'll have world models developed, and then the robots will use those models to integrate into the real world, whether it's driving trucks or digging holes in the road or being a plumber. As people have talked about, plumbing would be a good job for the future, but in a number of years you may see the robots are doing plumbing also. FedEx, Raj Subramanian, he's the second CEO in the company's history to talk about, he was talking about humanoid robots, automation, AI drones, and US-Chinese tensions in an interview with Jordan Holliman in the New York Times, which would be interesting to get their perspective. But ultimately, a lot of the carriers, whether it's Amazon or FedEx, they're looking at robot technology very heavily. Columbia University, they had a breakthrough where they had AI in a more synthetic face, looking at human facial expressions and mimicking facial expressions. So rather than the flat face of a metal face of a robot, you may see in the future more synthetic faces that are very similar to humans in terms of how they emote in their face. Some of the major companies, there's many companies in robotics, but just some of the ones I'm looking at are Unitree, which is K Robotics, 1X, Neo I talked about already. There's another company called Figure AI, which has some interesting things going on, as well as Agility Robotics. People will be familiar with Tesla and their Optimus plans. Aprotnik is another company I'm starting to look at. People will know Boston Dynamics and their Atlas robot. They've partnered recently with Hyundai. So this is an example now of companies partnering, whether it's for manufacturing technologies, which Elon has regularly talked about, one of the most difficult things to crack when it's building robots on a large scale. Some European companies, Generative Bionics, which is based in Italy, recently funded, and Neura Robotics, based in Germany. And lastly, some Chinese robot companies, Donut Robots and Agibot, including UBTech, which we talked about earlier with Abus. This is not an exhaustive list. It is expected that there will be a lot of consolidation as humanoid robots become mainstream in 2027 and beyond. The third story from last week is from the IMF, where they have warned us of a tsunami affecting global job markets, while Amazon announced 14,000 jobs cuts specifically to refocus resources on AI. So this is another example of the future of work shifting. So work today is defined by a painful restructuring where companies cut traditional corporate roles, HR, marketing, and finance, to fund high-cost AI infrastructure and expert AI leadership. So there will be jobs in the future, but they're going to focus more on people with AI skills who can bring in agentic systems, and who can manage AI infrastructures. And another report from PwC, 56% of CEOs reported zero financial returns in AI investments last year. 4,400 found that 56% of their investments have produced no financial return, while only 10 to 12% report gains on revenue or costs. They said in the report that the problem isn't AI itself, but a lack of basics like clean data, solid business processes, and governance before companies rush to adopt the technology. CEO confidence in their report shows that over a 12-month revenue growth has dropped to a 5-year low of 30%, down from 50% in 2022, even as leaders pause to transform through AI. So there's still a sense that while the benefits haven't been realized yet, the confidence that there will be benefits is still high. Fourth story is in the world of health. AI-driven clinical breakthroughs. The FDA gave IND approval to an AI discovery drug, the ISM 8969, for neurodegenerative diseases. And the US-EU regulators established 10 guiding principles for AI in drug development. It is expected that with breakthroughs in mathematics, and soon after mathematics, physics, and chemistry, that you're going to see AI play a bigger role in drug discovery. So the impact ultimately is that the timeline for drug discovery will continue to compress, potentially bringing new treatments to clinical trials at a pace previously impossible, while setting global safety standards for AI biotech. I've noticed in some of my watching on the YouTube channels, many of the investors in AI are looking for lifespan enhancements, both in the quality of life and the length of life. You will hear the term escape velocity in this conversation. It refers to adding 1 year to your lifespan for every year you live in the future. I don't know that any of these people want to live forever, but certainly they want a better quality of life and to live much longer than the traditional lifespan of people today. Our fifth story comes from Europe, and this is the beginning of national AI frameworks. So Italy became the first EU nation to implement a comprehensive national AI law, while the European Council adopted regulations for large-scale AI gigafactories. So you have this development of sovereign AI coming, and not all countries are doing that today. The impact will be that businesses will face compliance-first environments when operating AI models, requiring adherence to specific ethical and safety frameworks, similar to the rollout of GDPR. You'll find debates between the American AI companies looking at Europe, where they feel they're held back by regulations. But clearly the Europeans are thinking more about getting it right and safe first before developing it for their sovereign AI platforms. As I mentioned, it's not happening equally around the world. Some of the countries that are developing what's called sovereign AI. You have the UAE, India, which is implementing an India AI mission to build a secure indigenous system. Singapore, developing local LLMs. Japan, advanced supercomputers, ABCI 3.0, and supporting local open source models. France, championing trusted cloud initiatives and investing in regional AI models like Mistral. The United Kingdom, building the Dawn supercomputer for national security and research. Saudi Arabia is investing heavily in local data centers as well as US data centers and language-specific AI. Other notable mentions would be the Netherlands, Spain with Alia, Portugal with Amaldi, Taiwan with Triad, and increasingly Vietnam and Thailand. But as you can see, it's not all countries, but it is a question for countries whether they depend on open source models from China or from the hyperscalers here in the US. And the benefits for local AI, sovereign AI, is maybe cultural as well as privacy. Our sixth story, continuing the spend in AI infrastructure. We looked at the number for the New York Times last week, 2.5 trillion by the end of the year 2025. Gartner predicts global expenditure will hit 2.52 trillion in 2026, a 44% increase over 2025, focused heavily on data centers and GPUs. The demand is for compute, which will provide a boom in energy infrastructure and specialized vocational jobs. Electricians and plumbers needed to build the physical infrastructure for the AI era. This is obviously until the robots come. But in the short term, a lot of construction going on in data centers around the US and around the world. Sarah Freer, who's the OpenAI CFO, is on a major financing mission to help the company keep up with their pace of development. And what OpenAI are doing are more frequent product releases, which they're charging for. And we have the much expected Johnny Ive product coming out later this year, which is expected to be a device that allows you to talk to the models rather than type. We already have Whisper and other products that sit on your laptop where you can talk to the models. But Johnny Ives, who's done the iPhone and other Apple products, he's now got his own company called Love From. He's got some of the designers and fabricators from Apple. So there's a lot of interest in what his first product will be in partnership with OpenAI. Also, OpenAI were the first to roll out age prediction on their GPT. So they now have a way of assessing, based on the interaction, what the age of the user is. And if it's a child, they will block certain contact from them. That's obviously in response to the issues with Grok in Europe. And also, I guess, for other LLMs, thinking about how do you keep AI safe from children. Number 7 in our list of 10, AI-generated malware. Security researchers identified VoidLink, a malware framework almost entirely generated by AI, signaling a new phase of automated cyber threats. The impact is anticipated to be cybersecurity will become AI versus AI, the good guys versus the bad guys. Companies will be forced to adopt autonomous defense agents to counter self-evolving code threats. At this week's Zoom session last Friday, Valeen Surpak, who's a colleague of mine in SIM and a cybersecurity expert, discussed prompt injections. If you look at our YouTube link, our YouTube channel, I should say, we have a video of last week's Zoom session, and you can hear what Valeen had to say about the risks of prompt injection. And this will only get more severe with more agent technologies, as well as we integrate AI into our infrastructures. Number 8, Apple and the revamped AI interface. The good news here, after many years of trying to get Siri to be useful, Apple is overhauling their chat box to be powered by Google's Gemini tool. So this is a win for both Google as well as for Apple. What I would say to this story is that Siri is finally growing up. Looking forward to an improved version shortly. Next, number 9, AI in education. Google.org funded massive teacher training programs, and the US states have begun implementing formal AI policies for K through 12 and higher education. The impact of this will be that AI literacy will become a mandatory skill for entry-level workforce, while schools shift focus from how to write to how to prompt and verify with AI. There's other efforts going on around the world, specifically in India. You have Anthropic are working with Microsoft, and they're looking at building out an education infrastructure for Indian schools. Anthropic has also partnered with Teach for All to bring AI tools and training to educators in 36 countries. Lastly, in our top 10 for this week, we have The Psychology of the Singularity. Ray Kurzweil, who wrote that great book, The Singularity is Near, and then more recently, The Singularity is Nearer, has a pretty good track record on predictions. And so he predicted way back in 2004 that the singularity would be around 2046. And as AGI is becoming more on the horizon, he's been on record for saying that he believes AGI will be here in 2029. So as we are in 2026, what we're talking about is either 27, 28, but certainly no later than 29, we are going to have AGI. And Ray's definition of AGI is that it's an AI infrastructure that has the capability to outperform the best humans in multiple competencies, thousands of competencies, not just being smarter than the smartest physicists, but being smarter than the collection of skill sets that humans have. So that's near. So Dario was talking about this year or next year. Ray feels that it's 2029, no later. And in the interview, he said this past week, that he wouldn't be surprised if it comes sooner. I'll just close by saying and reminding everybody that there's a weekly Zoom session I run on Fridays at 12 noon US New York time. And in those sessions, I have an update on the week's news. So this report goes up to last Friday. So next Friday, I'll have the news from Sunday up to Friday. Each session, we look at some AI feature in depth. January is the month of prompting, so I've given away a prompt engineering accelerator, GPT, for people who come to these sessions. We looked at prompt injection last week. We looked at some of the fundamentals of LLMs and neural networks the week before. So this Friday we'll finish up looking at smart prompting techniques other than the ones in the GPT. And then also at the end of every it's an hour-long meeting session, and it's interactive, so we welcome questions, and we leave time at the end for discussion. And people are giving input as to what we'll talk about in February. So February looks like agentic AI, and we'll have a deep dive into what's happening with that in our sessions and in our reports. So thank you for listening. This will be available on Spotify later today. So like and subscribe, and look out for the newsletter, which comes out every Friday. I beg your pardon, every Saturday. It ends on Friday, it comes out every Saturday morning. Okay, have a great week, and we'll see you next week.